on the door leads to you being hurt or killed. I can't get
Because
that.
I thought she was going to break the door down.
Owens, a mother of 4, killed in front of one of her children on Friday.
You're under arrest, and you're going to be taken to the jail one way or another, okay? Susan?
This is the story of Susan Lawrence, a 58-year-old deeply disturbed racist who wore her cruelty like a badge of honor. A woman who had spent years making life miserable for her neighbors. A woman who felt entitled to everything around her and saw no consequence in taking what she wanted, even if it meant taking a life. This is also a story of 35-year-old Ahaji Kai. Chantrell Owens was more than just a single mother of 4. She was a force of love, resilience, and hope. Living in the quiet town of Ella, Florida, she worked tirelessly as a restaurant manager, ensuring her children never felt the weight of life's hardships. To friends and family, Ahaji was the embodiment of kindness, a woman whose loyalty knew no bounds, whose laughter filled every room, and whose devotion to her children was unwavering. Despite raising 4 children on her own, AGK had crafted a world of warmth and security for them. Their days were filled with love, their nights with laughter, and their future seemed promising. But all of that would be stolen in an instant by a woman who harbored nothing but hatred in her heart. On June 2nd, 2023, the life Ahaji Kai had built was mercilessly ripped away by a woman fueled by cruelty. A woman who had spent years tormenting her and her children under the guise of protecting her property. But what exactly led to this moment? What could drive a mother to her tragic fate? More importantly, who is responsible for this heinous act? The answer lies in the heart of a long-standing feud, a relentless battle waged by 58-year-old Susan Lawrence, a woman whose name became synonymous with harassment in their rental complex. She wasn't just a difficult neighbor, she was a tyrant, terrorizing tenants, screaming at passers-by, and picking fights with anyone she deemed unworthy of existing near her. Her favorite targets? AGK's 4 children, aged between 4 and 12. For years, Susan waged war on these innocent kids, all because they had the audacity to play near what she falsely claimed as her yard.
What's going on this evening?
Lots of children screaming their full heads off, running around. I had my truck parked in front here, so I didn't have to listen to the screaming and yelling. As soon as I moved the truck, the kids are coming up. I'm like, guys, stop. They know they're not supposed to be over here. They've been told many times. They've previously stolen the trespassing sign. And the little kid tells me to shut up to my face. I said, don't be disrespectful to me.
The dispute over this shared tenant space escalated for over 2.5 years. The children, just trying to enjoy their childhood, were met with relentless hostility. With every passing day, Susan's cruelty deepened, and the tension between the 2 households grew unbearable. Then came December 2022, a moment that laid bare the true extent of Susan's malice.
My name is Dr. Lawrence. Don't tell him to shut up. And he was calling me names. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. I said, go wherever you live. All of a sudden, I hear knock. His mother comes over here. If you treat my son like that again, I'm going to rip your ass out and go beat you up. Excuse me? I don't bloody well think so. And I said, see that no trespassing sign? Get off my phone.
She wasn't just a bitter woman. She was a predator, hell-bent on making these children suffer. And when words weren't enough, Susan took her torment to the next level.
Do you know where she lives?
I guess somewhere in there.
Do you know what she looks like?
She was a black woman, 20s, 30s, but I'm not going to take this. I don't like this. Okay. You know, this
tall, is she tall, short, fat, skinny?
Hi.
Wearing purple?
Just these kids over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I was like, enough. They're screaming. I mean, screaming for hours.
I got you, but I need to know what she was wearing and a description so I can talk to her.
Unfortunately for me, I had my glasses off because I was decorating this little tree.
Okay.
So when I take these off, here's what I see. I see you and Kangaroo.
Okay.
And this light was off. So I didn't get to see much. She was not clothing. That's all I saw. But it's ridiculous. I'm not going to be a prisoner in my own time.
I got you.
This is insanity.
Susan manipulated the law to punish kids under the age of 12 for trespassing on property she didn't even own. The landlord himself had to intervene, reminding Susan that the grass field belonged to no one. It was shared by all tenants. But Susan wasn't the type to accept reality. If she couldn't have control, she would ensure no one else could either, and she had already decided how this would end.
You're okay.
Every time, even if we're not on our property and we're just like being loud and playing basketball over there because there's a basketball hoop.
I got you.
Like she just calls us names.
In reality though, this was nothing more than a grown woman bullying children, as Susan had purposely left out details to trick cops into arresting kids under the age of 12 for trespassing. The yard from which this dispute stemmed was in no way Susan's. Susan only rented out the building and had no rights over this grass field. Even the landlord was forced to step in an attempt to end these conflicts.
Here, this guy has said numerous times, y'all come over here and play, because they all like to play football and stuff.
Okay.
So he's okay with it, and that's where they mainly are. They're more on his side.
Whose mom are you? Any of them?
Well, they're all mine. I'm saying no.
Hey.
My kids aren't really here, but they're always outside playing with them.
All right, so let me just talk to you guys real quick, okay? What kind of names is she calling you guys?
Retards, the B word,
The B word.
the P word, every word in the book. Like one time the kids were playing right there, and it was his dad outside. And then she came
Your
out
dad?
yelling at
Cowboy?
Yeah, my dad.
She came out yelling, and she was talking about a little girl getting raped and stuff. Like, she's crazy.
Susan found this unacceptable. The field was either hers or no one else's, and she had already made preparations to act if things went south. Claiming that Aji K's children were threatening her life, Susan purchased a Remington RM380, preparing for the day she could justify pulling the trigger. She wasn't scared, she was eager.
I don't want to be intimidated by them screaming and yelling at me, telling me I'm a calling me Karen. They're calling me names.
And on June 2nd, 2023, the moment she had been waiting for arrived. That evening, two of Ahaji K's children, aged 10 and 12, were once again playing in the shared grass field. At 8:54 p.m., Susan dialed 911, reporting them for trespassing. The call lasted 5 minutes, ending at 8:59 p.m., but Susan wasn't done. At some point before or during the call, she grabbed a pair of rollerblades and hurled them at the children, striking one on the toe. As the child cried out, Susan spat racial slurs, ensuring her hatred was felt as deeply as possible. Terrified and hurt, the children ran home to their mother, telling her everything. That's when Aji Kai, the protector, the mother, the warrior, stormed over to Susan's home. She pounded on the door, demanding answers, demanding justice for her babies. Susan, waiting like a predator in the dark, reached into a trash bin, pulled out her Remington, and aimed. She wasn't defending herself. She wasn't reacting in fear. She was executing a plan. At exactly 9:01 p.m., a single gunshot tore through the silence of the night, echoing through the neighborhood. By 9:08 p.m., deputies arrived, finding Aji K bleeding out on the ground, a mother whose only crime was standing up for her children, a woman who had dedicated her life to protecting them, only to fall victim to a senseless act of hatred. 30 minutes later, at 9:34 p.m., AGK Chantrell Owens was pronounced dead. Susan Lawrence was taken into custody.
Your hands! Show me your hands! Turn around! Turn around! Where's your gun at?
It's in my bedroom.
I don't know what's going on. You're going to be detained for now.
Is there anybody else in the house? Nope, not right now.
But even behind bars, one terrifying reality loomed. She could walk free. Florida's Stand Your Ground law, meant to protect those acting in genuine self-defense, had become a shield for murderers like Susan Lawrence. The law states that a person can use deadly force if they reasonably believe they are defending themselves against an imminent threat. And Susan knew exactly how to play this game. She painted herself as the victim, twisting the story, bending the truth, desperate to justify taking a life that was never hers to take. Now, the question remained. Would the detectives see through her deception? Would they uncover the truth before she could walk free?
That you didn't remember at the time, or you just, like I said, there was a lot going on that you... maybe didn't think
I
to
don't know
say
what to
it.
tell you because I thought I told you everything.
Okay, all right. So some of the things, like I said, we were just trying to clarify because we were in the room together for a while
Yes.
talking, and we went over a lot of different things. So one of the things I wanted to clarify with you is and try to understand better is when Ajika was at the door, when she approached the door, when was it that you realized that it was her coming to the door?
Because I said, who's there?
Okay, how did you know someone was there initially? Was it
It
because?
was a huge banging.
Okay.
You know, just pounding at that door.
Okay. So initially, there was no words, it was just the pounding?
Yeah.
That's what started
Yes,
the interaction there?
yes.
And where was the pounding at initially, where it first began?
The front door.
At the front door?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did she, was it just like
It was,
one, or
no,
was
no,
it
no, it was
several?
just bang, bang, bang,
Okay,
bang.
all right, and then you said
Who's
you asked
there?
her who's
Yeah.
there? Okay, and what was said then?
I think she said, why do you speak to my children this way? And I said, listen, I'm not gonna speak to you, go away. You know, if she had a problem, she should have called you guys. You know,
Okay.
honestly. I mean, if she really thought there was something seriously wrong, I don't understand why she just came over and just started pounding on my door and, you know, screaming and yelling. So.
And then what happened after you said to go away?
Go away, and then it got quiet for a bit, and then she started really banging, you know, just pounding on that door. She was relentless.
How long is a bit, would you say?
I don't know,
Like
because
5, 10 seconds, or 2 minutes? Or?
it was an extended period of time, probably 20 to 30 seconds,
Okay.
easily.
But during that time, you didn't hear anything else? Did you think she went away?
No, well, I obviously knew she didn't go away because she was screaming while she was pounding.
Describe that. When you say screaming, describe what does that mean?
She was just, you're not supposed to speak to my children this way. Why did you, you know? And then she was saying, I'm gonna kill you. And I'm like, holy shit, you know. And that's when
Well, you said there was like the initial barrage of the pounding, and you said who's there, and she said, you know, what you said about not talking to her children that way.
Yeah.
And then you said it got quiet. So there was no banging, there was no words being
No,
said.
because I thought she went away.
That's what I was asking. Basically, I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I.
No, it's okay.
didn't say
I
it.
thought, all right, you know, she's just gonna do whatever she wants to do.
And you said that was like 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then did she start yelling again first, or
Yes.
was there more banging?
It was
first?
banging, it was yelling. I thought she was just gonna break down the door.
Okay.
So, I mean, my heart was pounding, and I was like, she's really gonna kill me.
Okay,
And that's
so-
all I felt.
Well, that's a blatant lie.
What I heard said, the kids were playing outside earlier, right? In his yard. And yes ma'am. And one of the little kids, he left his iPad on the ground. And I guess the old white lady that shot the lady, she grabbed his iPad and she threw a roller skate at him. And she came out with the umbrella too and was trying to swing at him or some shit like that. Okay. And then
Is that what you heard or is that what you saw?
that's what I heard.
Okay, well, let's just focus on what you
Okay.
saw. Facts.
And the only thing I heard was her knocking on the door pretty loud, right?
Who was
And then
knocking on the door?
The lady that got shot, right?
She was knocking on the other lady's door.
Yeah, like to see what went between the two kids, you know, like
Wait, did
between
you
her and the
see
kids.
anything or?
From this testimony and countless others that were never even recorded, it became undeniably clear AGK had never made a death threat. She hadn't even uttered a single word that could be twisted into a threat against Susan's life. And yet, time and time again, we saw the same pattern, a web of half-truths, carefully spun to distort reality. But this wasn't just manipulation. No, this was something far more sinister. It was all part of Susan's sickening plan. A desperate scheme to save herself at any cost. What exactly was that plan? We'd only begin to uncover its full horror as detectives pressed her further.
When she first came up and where were you when she started the
I
beating?
was
The
in the
very first
bathroom.
time. You were in the bathroom
Yeah.
when she started beating.
Yeah.
And did you come to the door?
Well, I was approaching the door, and then she started screaming, and I knew who it was. And I
Okay.
said, that's it, I'm not opening this door.
Okay.
And because I figured if she came in, she would just absolutely, you know, pound me into the ground.
All right. And then when it became silent, after that first round of beating on your door, where were you at then? Did you go?
I think I went to wash my hands, honestly.
Okay.
You know, because I didn't know who was at the door, and I went to know, and then I was like,
Okay.
You know, so I went back and washed my hands.
Okay.
So,
So that's during the time where it was kind of
Mhm.
quiet, and
Yes.
you thought that maybe she went away.
mhm.
Okay. And when the banging and the yelling started again, where were you at then?
I think I was in the kitchen.
Okay. All right. And then what happened?
And then she just kept banging and yelling. I'm like, you need to leave. You're trespassing. Get off my porch. You know, get out of here. You know, I'm not talking to you. Leave.
Okay. Who else was outside the door besides
I have no
Ajiko?
idea.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
Where were the other kids? Because I know the kids had been over there prior to her coming over.
Yeah,
Or?
they were right by the, you know, where the fence is, and then there's a sidewalk. They were right
Yeah.
beyond that sidewalk, inside where it's supposed to be no trespassing.
Okay, so they were outside of the fence while she was banging on the door?
I have no idea.
Oh, you're not
no,
sure?
I have no idea.
Okay.
You asked me when the kids were there earlier.
Right.
So, and the kids finally, you know, I went inside. I figured they left.
So you didn't know who else was out there
No,
at that
no
time?
idea.
Okay. So you went to the kitchen and she was still pounding on the door
Pounding on
and
the door.
yelling. And I know we've kind of gone over this a lot, but I want to make sure, now we're getting more like in order of things, because the first time we talked, it was kind of just like, it all came out all at once. And now that you've had a little bit of time to kind of think about things that happened again and try to get it in a good order that things happen, because it's very important to be able to say, okay, this happened first, this is what happened next, so that we don't get them confused or anything.
Okay.
So after that initial silence where, well, I wouldn't say silence, but it got quiet, you were washing your hands in the bathroom, and then the pounding and the yelling started again, and you went to the kitchen. What were you
Yes.
doing in the kitchen? Just,
I was looking for my phone.
okay,
So I put my phone down somewhere and I started panicking and I started searching for the phone. And then she just kept banging and banging and banging. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, you know, get out of here. You know, and I'm like, I have nowhere to go. I mean, I was in the kitchen, there's the sliders and the sliders are always locked. And just that one door, so there's no escape.
Okay.
I couldn't leave, I couldn't get out of there. I was like, Jesus Christ. And she was pounding so hard, the mirror on my wall was shaking.
okay. So that first, I'm sorry to go back, but that first time that she pounds on the door, how long do you think that lasted before there was kind of the silence? I know you said she hit the door, you said, who's there? And that, what was it said?
Probably 5-10 seconds she was pounding the first time.
Okay. And then when it started again, how long, and I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit, but we'll kind of come back. When she started pounding on the door again and saying all that stuff to the point where you fired the gun, how long do you think that lasted?
2 to 5 minutes.
2 to 5 minutes.
I don't
Oh,
know, just
wow.
everything's kind of, it was a while. I mean, it was a while. I kept thinking, okay, you guys are going to show up, you know, because I had called earlier and no one was coming, no one was coming. I'm like, shit, I couldn't find my phone. And she was just banging and banging, screaming at me, telling me, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, she's really going to kill me this time. That's all I kept thinking. She's literally going to come in this house and kill me.
Okay. When did you find your phone? At what point?
After I shot her. I just started searching the house frantically until I found it, and I wanted to make sure that I called and said, you know, I shot, because I heard her go, ugh. You know,
Where was your phone?
I think it was in my computer room.
In the computer room? Okay.
So, let me just understand this a little better, because I'm not really sure. So, the woman that got shot, what is her name?
AJ.
AJ, right, it's AJ.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long have you known her?
I really didn't know her. I just, you know, she was a neighbor across the street.
Okay, so how long has she been a neighbor across the street from you? Help me understand that.
A year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, year and a half and 2 years. And in that year and a half and 2 years, how many times have you guys been able to talk?
We've never talked. It's more like screaming.
No, okay, all right. So maybe the better word would be communicate. How many times have you guys been able to communicate in that year and a half or 2 years?
2-3 times.
2 or 3 times. And in those 2 or 3 times over a year and a half and 2 years, what were you guys screaming about? What were you guys communicating about?
She would take her dog and walk it on my sidewalk to make sure it's shit on the sidewalk. And
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know, of all the places you can walk and take your animal, you're going to come here. And she
Sure.
said, it's the only place my dog will go to the bathroom.
Okay.
I'm
So-
like, no, I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
so you guys would have a disagreement regarding that, some screaming regarding the dog pooping where it shouldn't. What else would you guys communicate about in that 2 or 3 times?
Then one time she was talking to the neighbors and she said, oh, that bitch over there is crazy. And I went, no, I'm not going to, you know, sorry. I walked over, I said, what is your problem? And she just went on a tirade. I have never heard someone scream like this woman. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, she exploded. And I'm like, oh shit.
How long ago was that?
2 months ago.
2 months?
3 months ago. And
The incident Susan is referring to took place on April 17th, 2 months before the shooting. That day, deputies were called because Akijay's children were playing in a parking lot.
trespass the hell out of here.
So what I'm looking at, where they're at, you can't trespass anybody from that location. The issue is that the parking lot is a common area.
But there was a problem with that claim. The location in question, it wasn't private property where anyone could be legally trespassed.
He's
Yeah.
I'll get over here in just a second.
now. He's trespassing.
He came over to come ask us a question.
The deputies engaged the neighbor away from her residence.
I was trying to reason with her one day because we were all playing here. The kids, everything jumped. All right, let's go. And she's like, hey, you know what? One day you guys are gonna die. And I'm like, and that's when I like, whoa.
But no matter how Susan tried to spin it, the reality was simple. The man was not trespassing. He had every right to be there. Yet, Susan's version of events was already twisting the truth. And as we'd soon see, this was just the beginning. This conversation would become a revealing glimpse into Susan's narcissistic tendencies, how she twisted the truth, manipulated information, and shifted blame. The moment she felt cornered, she turned hyper-aggressive, not to defend herself with facts, but to create a smokescreen of innocence.
I called them racial slurs, that I called them slaves, and that's never happened. I mean, when she said, I'm like, what are you, stop already, stop lying, you know? And I was like, enough, what? I did call them retards once, because they just kept coming and coming. I said, are you retarded? You can't read the sign.
Okay.
You know, how many times do we have to tell you you're trespassing, you know?
Now, all these kids nowadays, they have tablets and phones and stuff. Are you, I mean, you can tell us the truth. I mean, it's just us in here. I think we were looking at different videos and people were telling us about, we spoke to everybody in the neighborhood separately. Was there other times when you got frustrated or something with these kids and you said something else that we're not talking about? I mean, have you said other words to them or something about middle fingers or something? Tell me about that.
It wasn't at the kids, it was at the gentleman.
Who's the gentleman?
I only know him by his name, Sapito.
So okay.
So he's a guy, he gets all the kids together, so they're screaming and yelling and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, stop already. And I asked him, I said, please stop. I don't like the yelling. I just, you know, I started gonna break down.
Susan put on a masterful performance, breaking down in fake tears, hoping that if she played the poor, helpless old lady, she wouldn't have to answer the detective's questions. What a genius.
Now, take your time. What is the crazy stuff that Sapito has these kids doing? Tell me about that.
He used to ride a four-wheeler. And he would come around the house. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Then he'd have the kids on the back, no helmets, no nothing. And I'm like, stop already. The one time I went out there, he almost hit me. He's like, missed you. Jesus Christ, really? And I'm like, I just can't deal with it. I have an injury right now. I have an aneurysm on my left kidney artery. If he hit me, he'd have killed me.
So, was it on last Friday that you were kind of giving him the middle finger then? Is that what I was understanding?
I may have given him the middle finger because they're just out there and I took a picture and he's like, oh, go take more pictures. I'm like, you know, because...
What other kind of crazy things is he having these kids do? Is it something where he's...
He would have them exercise and scream and yell, and the kids are like, we're tired, stop, we're tired.
Is he like a coach, or do they play sports or something?
I have no idea. And he's like, come on, you weenies, you know, get moving. And the kids are like, no, we want to stop. He's like, you can't stop.
Is he the father of one of those kids that live?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
I don't know who he is. I just know that. And I asked him, I said, please. I said, you know, one of my friends was murdered when I was very young. And she screamed. She was bound and gagged, and the guy thought he killed her, and she screamed. And so every time those little kids scream, I keep thinking of my friend Elizabeth.
Tell me about that. Whoa.
So, and I asked him, I said, Sapito, please, these kids screaming like this, it's triggering me. I don't want to hear this, you know? And he's like, you're full of shit, you're a liar, you're this, you're that. I'm like, really? I'm like, why would I tell this story and it's not true?
I know this is kind of not really related to what we're talking about, but what?
Based on her conversation with the detective so far, it's clear that Susan has a deep-seated issue with loud noises, one that seems to send her into a rage whenever children or anyone else disrupts her silence. While not widely recognized, this could be a form of misophonia, a condition linked to extreme emotional reactions to certain sounds, sometimes rooted in past trauma. But just how deeply this supposed trauma shaped Susan's actions, that would only become clear later in the investigation. For now, the officers had bigger concerns. They needed answers about the shooting, and they were ready to dig deeper into her story.
That she passed away. You said that you guys have yelled at each other 3 or 4 times in about a year and a half to 2 years. Is that right?
Yes.
And the last time she yelled at you a lot. Did you ever? I worked as a patrol deputy for years before becoming a detective. Did you guys ever get in like a fight in the street or anything like that? No, nothing like that.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm
sorry.
I gotta ask. I guess I don't know you that well.
No.
Did she ever brandish a weapon or anything like that, or something?
The only thing she ever did is she picked up the no trespassing sign and threw it at me and hit me.
Okay. And I know that the police came out a lot of times. Did the police ever come out for that time when she threw the sign?
Yeah, and then everybody in the neighborhood said, "Oh, we didn't see anything."
Okay.
So it was a he said, she said. So they said they couldn't charge anything.
Sure.
I'm like, all right.
And obviously you have a firearm. I haven't had a chance to ask you about this. Now, is that a gun that you've had for years? Or you just had it for a couple weeks? Help me understand that.
No, over a year.
Okay, over a year. And where do you normally keep that secured in the house?
That's usually next. It was in a garbage can next to my bed.
Okay. And is it like?
Now that was the Remington that you're talking about that you got over a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we were at the house, there was the other one, the 22,
The
was a
Ruger.
Ruger. How long have you had that firearm?
A few months.
Just a few months?
Yeah, not very long. And the only reason I did it is because it was so expensive to shoot the Remington.
Oh, with the 380 rounds?
The 380,
expensive,
way more expensive. So I got the little plinker, just target practice and stuff like that.
Are you experienced with firearms? You got 2 guns, and it sounds like you have the little plinker, and you know about the price of ammo. Are you well versed with them?
I used to be terrified of firearms. And then a friend said, you really can't defend yourself. He said you should think about getting a gun.
Okay.
So,
when did you first get a gun? Was it or did you have other guns historically?
No, I never did.
Okay.
I first bought a 9mm, but it was just way too much gun for me, so I sold it. And then I got the little 380.
Okay. And did you go to any kind of training for those using guns, like going to the range, or tell me about that?
Went to the range, watched videos, all the other stuff, just self-educating, and I was going to go take a permit to carry course.
Sure.
And I didn't get around to it.
Yeah, okay. So you were self-training yourself, you had plans to do that in the future, but it didn't come to that. So thank you for helping me understand that. And describe to me, AJ, you've only had these arguments with her a few times, but what I'm confused about is that we're talking about her banging on it 3 times, and then there's a pause, and there's everything else you just described to Detective Stipp. And you said that this was the time that she was going to come and kill you. That's confusing to me because it sounds like you guys really didn't have any other times that she was going to come and kill you.
No, she was saying she's going to kill me. I mean, she was verbalizing it. She was saying, "I'm going to kill you."
Okay.
That's how. It's not like this is the time she's going to come and kill me. I mean,
so I'm trying to get into your mind, and I'm trying to be brought to that moment to why you believe that. And we were talking. You were in the bathroom, then you were in the kitchen.
If we rewind back to the witness's account, there was no extended argument, just a single knock, and GK was already on the ground.
Why you believe that? And we were talking. You were in the bathroom, then you were in the kitchen. I mean, I know that she's saying something, and you're inside your house, and she's on the other side of that wall and that door. Were you able to ever see her to see if she had anything in her hands?
There's no peephole or anything.
There's no peephole, thanks. Okay. Were you able to look through a window or anything to see if she had anything in her hands or anything?
No.
Okay. So you don't know if what's going on, but you can hear her voice.
Yes.
And you said that she's hitting the wall hard enough that, was it the door?
The mirror.
That the mirror's moving?
Yes.
And she's hitting the door?
She's hitting the door.
Okay. And there's no peephole or anything like that. You don't know who all's out there, but you can hear her voice.
Yes.
Okay. What made you shoot that spot on the door? It sounds like you had some experience with the gun, so bring me to that moment where what happened?
I grabbed the gun, I was shaking like a leaf, and the more she pounded, the more she screamed. I was like, stop, 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 go away, move away. She wouldn't move away. Finally, I'm going to kill you, and that was the last time, and I just fired the weapon.
Okay. Was there a spot you picked or something like that?
I just kind of, there was the door, I knew she was out the door. shot the windows.
So since the last time you and I talked, I went in the house.
But the detectives were sharp. They laid out evidence and testimonies from multiple witnesses, leaving Susan completely speechless.
Spoke to all the people over. This is your house, by the way. Okay, this is. We'll put an S for you. We spoke to everybody in these buildings. We spoke to them all in these buildings, and we talked to anybody that had cameras that would see different areas. These cameras, they hear things. We're able to hear audio. We're able to hear things like that. And everyone when we interviewed, I pretty much got the same, Detective Stith, I think we all got the same statement from every single person we interviewed. We lined up, well, we didn't line them up. These people were interviewed in different locations. Some of them were interviewed in different buildings, in different places. I interviewed them at different houses, and all these people provided me similar statements, okay? No one that provided these, now these people could hear her talking. Okay, because she was talking loudly. You said that you could hear it through the wall, and I can agree with that. Okay, she made a statement, something to the effect of, "Why'd you take my kid's iPad?" Okay, somebody heard her say that.
I never touched an iPad. I never saw the iPad. I don't know what this iPad is about.
A tablet or something like that?
Again, no tablet, no iPad, no electronics at all. It was never there, or at least I never saw it.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
Was she, maybe she's wrong, but was she asking you about a tablet or accusing you of something with a tablet or an iPad? I don't know if it's an iPad or a tablet. She could have?
She could have.
Okay. You seem unsure of some of the stuff she's saying through the door. Did she say, you're not really sure if she said that?
She could have said it during her rants.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's saying these things. The thing is everything that we've learned so far, I have not learned of her ever saying to you that she wanted to get into the house. It sounded more like she wanted to talk to you outside of the house.
How do you want to talk to outside the house when you're banging and screaming?
Yeah.
That's not reasonable.
One of the people said that she said, "Come outside."
That's not. I'm sorry.
Come
That's
out.
not what.
It's not reasonable and prudent. I mean, you just don't, bang and expect someone to come out. Yeah, I think I'll come outside so you can,
Well, I know.
Seriously.
What I'm learning, what these people said is that she was saying to come outside. She wanted to confront you about something. She wanted you to come outside. Do you remember her making statements and asking you to come out there and talk to her?
I honestly don't recall.
Okay, so you don't remember that, and you seem unsure about some of the statements she made about the tablet. No one that we've interviewed so far has made any statements about her saying that she wanted to kill you.
That's what I heard.
Okay. You said you were so in fear and you're shaking. Is your memory affected regarding this incident in some way?
I just remember being terrified that she was banging and screaming, and I just remember hearing her say, "I'm going to kill you."
This is the exact moment Susan realizes she's been caught red-handed. There were no threats, just an angry mother, not a crazed killer. And then there's the iPad, a small but telling detail. Witnesses confirm it was one of the children's belongings left behind in the field when they ran to tell their mother what had happened. But instead of simply leaving it, Susan picked it up and refused to give it back.
Even the night before I called the police, I don't know how old he is, but he said, "I'm going to make sure you get killed tonight."
Which son? She has two sons.
I know. I don't remember. It was one of her sons, but he was there. He's like, "I'm gonna make sure you get killed. I'm gonna make sure that you know." And I'm like, "What the hell is going on?"
Has this person ever shown you a weapon or anything like that?
No, but I mean, the little kid said it, and then all of a sudden his mom's coming over and she's banging and screaming. And
now I asked you this earlier. You said you can't see out there, but you've only seen her a few times.
Mm-hmm.
What means does she have to harm you through the wall?
Like I said, she was banging so much, everything was shaking and moving.
Now that house,
Which I couldn't believe because it's a cement block house.
That was my next question. So it's a cement block house, and the door, the deadbolt was activated, right?
The deadbolt was activated, right? And you just didn't have the chain lock?
I was going to say, I remember I didn't have the chain. I'm not quite sure if I had the deadbolt on or not.
Okay. I believe the last time we talked, you said you had the deadbolt, but you didn't want to get back close to the door to do the chain, is from what I recall. And you said you had the extra long deadbolt just installed, recently?
Charles did it.
Okay, Charles.
So that's what the deadbolt's activated, the door's closed, it's a block house. I'm just trying to understand what made you so in fear of this woman if you have these things between you.
When we had spoken previously on the other time when she screamed at me and I finally acquiesced, I said, whatever you want, I'm so sorry. She followed me a foot behind me up until I went into the house. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, she gave me the creeps.
What happened during that incident where she followed you? What was the conversation?
She said, oh, you called my kids, I can't remember, I think a nigger and a slave or something stupid like that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I finally said, I'm going to leave this alone. I don't need, to get killed in the street.
Did she tell you if she had recordings of you saying that?
I have no
or like
idea.
one of the kids?
I have no idea.
But you apologized and she continued to follow you anyway?
Yeah, she followed me anyway.
How far did she follow you?
Like right up to where I go in by the wood.
By the fence?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
She finally just went away.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
That was like a month or two ago.
Okay. And was that an incident dealing with she had the dog and the kids were over there?
No.
No, that was something different?
Was something different.
Okay. And I think that was, I want to say, was it April? Does that sound right? With you had called because again the kids were over there, the dog was over there. Does that sound about right? Okay, but that was a different incident than what you're talking about.
Yes.
And where were you at when you had that conversation where she started following you? Where were you?
I was in the street.
Okay. Like by the mailboxes or?
No, I was close to her driveway.
Close to her driveway, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did she make any threats of physical violence to you then?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
Okay.
She was following you and that made you feel creepy, right? Or creeped you out, I think is the word you said?
Yeah.
Okay, but there wasn't any threats of physical violence then. And you said...
why would you, if the conversation is over, why would you still pursue someone? I mean, to me... Was
she still saying things? Was she still
No,
talking?
she just followed me. And I just felt like, at any point in time she could knock me down and do something. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't want to tangle with her anymore.
It's clear by now, nothing Susan says can be trusted. But the real question is why? Why go to such lengths to lie? What is she trying to gain by twisting the narrative so drastically? Fortunately, the detectives already know the answer, and they're about to confront Susan with it.
I'm looking at this from the outside here, and this really is not adding up to me. You used the word reasonable and prudent earlier. That's an interesting series of words to use. That's like a series of words that we use as law enforcement officers when we try to look at things. And there's a big jump here that you're making logically I can't seem to make the jump. I'm having a really hard time getting there. You've known this woman for 1.5 to 2 years. Your only communications were 2 to 3 times. The dog's pooping, and then there was another time where you called her, you said, I'm sorry about calling your kids some names, and she followed behind you. You thought that was creepy. She's never threatened you. She's never displayed a firearm towards you. She starts yelling on your patio area, banging hard on your door, which your door is locked, and then you're scared. Now you're saying that you're scared, which, okay, I can get to that. I can get to that point that you're scared there's someone knocking on your door.
No, it wasn't knocking, it was pounding.
Pounding. There's someone pounding on your door. Right. There's someone pounding on your door. They're pounding on your door, and I can't get to the point where pounding on the door leads to you being hurt or killed. I can't get.
Because I thought she was going to break the door down. The door, you could see that it was all repaired and re-repaired and all that crap like that. So I never felt that door was secure.
You have an extended deadbolt, and you've never been in any kind of violent situation where someone's kicked in your door or like Kool-Aid Man through your entire wall. There has not been that situation. So I'm trying to do the reasonable and prudent. I'm trying to come into your shoes there, and I'm having a hard jump there because describe to me, AJ, what does she look like?
Tall black woman, heavy set,
Okay. Does she have a very muscular? You've only known her for 1.5 years. You've only had so many communications. I mean, is she like a muscular person that's able to, like, I don't know, do extreme feats of strength? Does she weight train in her front yard? Help me understand this.
No, I don't.
That's what I'm trying. I'm having a hard time with this.
He's not being facetious. He's just trying to understand how we got from the point of someone pounding on your door
but to get to, she's gonna get through the wall is where I can't get there. I don't understand. What if, and I was thinking about this earlier, what if the police officer had already arrived and she is loud and she's still yelling, and now the officer's standing in front of the door and he does some knocks, but she's still on that darn patio yelling, and you're shooting, you can't see, there's no peephole, there's no window, there's nothing, and then you shoot, and what if the darn officer was on the other side of the door? You see what I mean? And obviously she's still running her mouth, she's still going, but you don't know what's on the other side of that door.
Hopefully he would have introduced himself.
I sure hope so. I mean, and that's what some of the issues are, that I can't get there, and I don't understand entirely what was going on in your mind, and I don't see how that is entire. Were you on alcohol or anything like? I gotta ask these questions. Were there anything in your mind that would impair yourself in your judgments?
I took Belbuca earlier in the day.
What is that?
It was for my back.
Okay, is that a narcotic?
Yes.
I'm not a muscle relax. I'm guessing here.
No, it's a pain reliever.
Okay, it's a pain reliever.
Mm-hmm.
And does that have like something on the bottle that it would?
It's a film.
Okay. Does that like don't use motor vehicles or something like that? What does it do to you? How does it make you feel?
It just makes me sleepy.
It's called, what is it called?
Belbuca.
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 Okay.
Does that have to do with your artery issue in your kidney?
No, I had a car wreck. So I had a fusion on my lower back. I'm sorry, fusion in my neck, and then laminectomy in my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this thing that goes backwards. So I have some issues.
Okay.
And I have a torn rotator cuff.
Okay. And do you have issues with any kind of previous, from the car accident, I have to ask, a head injury which would impair your memory or affect your memory or anything like that?
I don't remember. I think I hit my head on the steering wheel from the accident.
Okay. Do you suffer time and spatial memory issues where you can't remember certain amounts of time and things like that? And the reason that I asked that is you have indicated that this was somewhere between like 5 to 10 minutes or something. Am I getting that right, Detective Stiff? Okay. From the cameras that we've looked at in the area here, this incident did not last for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, from the people that we spoke to, there's aspects of this that I can agree about. She's talking loud. She's banging on that door. We're going to agree with that. But the actual number of knocks, you did 3 knocks, and then you said there was a pause.
I never said 3.
Well, you said bang, 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 and then she stopped, which I counted 3. Now,
okay.
if there was something different, you can tell me. I was remembering earlier. You said bang, bang, bang. There was 3. Then she stopped, and then she continued to, and then what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing has led me to believe as an investigator that it was like 5 to 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, maybe it just seemed like it was longer.
With this information, a reasonable conclusion can be drawn. Susan was well aware of Florida's stand your ground laws. In fact, as the interrogation unfolds, there are clear indications that she even researched them before the shooting. This would explain the glaring inconsistencies in her alibi, and why detectives took special note of her careful use of the words reasonable and prudent. If her story were accepted at face value, she might have been able to walk away from this murder unscathed. But these detectives weren't falling for it. They had already begun dismantling her lies piece by piece.
And just getting so upset.
Sure. Whenever adrenaline comes in, it can make things seem like they stretch out. From some of the other statements we've got, some of the things that we've learned, it sounds more like there was 3 knocks, and then there was 3 more, and then she was shot. It sounds like this was very quick. It sounds like this was like within a span of less than 20 seconds is what I would say. Is it possible that your time is off on this?
It could be.
Okay.
Because to me it felt like forever.
Okay.
So
if this is like what's being described as a 20-second, this is a brief encounter. It's a brief encounter with loud banging, with loud yelling. The statements that some of the statements that you're saying occurred, like I'm going to kill you and those kind of threats. No one else has heard you. No one else has heard her make those statements.
Okay.
Okay. I'm worried that some of the prior experiences you've had in your life that we've talked about today, they are a traumatic experience, sexual violence against you, when you were a kid, all those people coming and trying to get you, that there's something going on in your head. Are you not sure about some of the things we've talked about today? Regarding some of the things you're saying that you heard, is it possible she never threatened you at all?
No, I swear to God, I thought she said, I'm going to kill you. I mean, that's why I just panicked. As soon as those words came out of her mouth, I was like, Jesus Christ, she's going to kill me.
Okay. And how did you imagine yourself being killed? Remembering that there's that block wall, that door, how was she going to be able to do that? What makes you think that she was able to do that?
She was still pounding, but that she could have come right through that glass wall. I mean, the glass door.
Well, we talked about pounding on the door. Did she ever pound on the glass wall? Was it a window or wall? Help me.
It's doors. It's sliders.
Glass sliding door.
Yeah.
She pound on that?
She may have. I don't know. Well, I kept thinking that she's going to gain entrance. She's going to kill me.
And that's why I asked you earlier if you recalled if she tried to. Was that door locked? The sliding glass door?
Yes.
Was that safe? Do you have like anything?
I had I think there was a wood piece in there.
In the slider?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't recall if she tried that door?
I just remember lots of pounding.
Lots of pounding.
You know, just to me it was just an enormous amount of pounding, screaming, yelling, and you know, I felt like she was going to come through that door.
And I think Detective Pender touched on it. Like in your head, what during the panic, during all these thoughts, what did you feel that was going to happen?
And she's going to come in there and beat the shit out of me until I was dead.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I felt. I mean, I don't understand why she came over my house. If there was all these issues and problems, why didn't you just call somebody? You know, that's, to me, that's what you would do if you're normal. You know, that's a normal thing to do. If something happens to me, I call the police. You know, like, okay, you know, the kids are being run or she's banging in, you know. But when I couldn't find my phone and everything, I was just like, shit. You know, I honest to God felt she was going to kill me.
To put things into perspective, Susan ended her call reporting the children at 8:59 p.m. The gunshot was heard at 9:01 p.m. That's a 2-minute gap, hardly enough time for the drawn-out confrontation she's trying to paint. It's clear she's deliberately exaggerating the timeline to make AGK seem more threatening. But the evidence at the crime scene tells a very different story, one that contradicts Susan's version entirely.
Do you think that she could somehow get through that wall now that you're out, now that you're not in the house anymore, and that
I still feel that fear. I just still feel she was coming at me. I'm sorry, it's what I feel.
Okay.
I've just, you know, it's been playing in my head over and over again, and I just kept thinking of that and how terrified I was.
Was your goal to shoot and kill her?
No.
What was your goal?
To shoot and hopefully, you know, she'd hear the shot and dissipate.
But you took aim at the door, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the goal was to strike the door and to dissipate it. I'm having a really hard time making this jump here, that this unarmed person on the other side of the wall is somehow gonna get into your house and kill you. I'm just really having a hard time getting there. I've been doing this job as a homicide investigator for several years, and I've seen houses that are made out of like pretty much be paper mache. Okay, doors that are so thin, like walls that balls of wood you could just push through. And this is a block house with a solid door. I've seen cases before where there is an angry spouse and say, let me back in the house, you can't throw me out, and they'll kick the wall as hard as they can, and they're not getting in. Some of these doors open inwards, outwards. I don't know which way your door opens. Which way does it open? It opens outward?
I think it opens out.
Okay. So it
opens inwards.
It opens inwards. Okay. So they work on these doors and they're not even able to make entry, and they just give up. And I'm really having a hard time understanding like how if you could go back in time, would you not do what you did? Would you take it back and I don't know, wait however long it took for the police to get there? I'm trying to understand that. Do you feel like you did something wrong here?
I did what I felt I had to. I honest to God thought she was going to kill me. I mean, that's all I felt. I just felt that terror. I mean, it was sheer terror.
So I went out to the house that morning, when I met you out there, and I tested the door. First of all, I looked at the door. We processed the door just to see what areas might have been touched by AJ. I looked at the door frame where it had been repaired. It looked like there was a type of putty or something used where the wood frame had been separated. I examined the deadbolt lock, the The strike plates were in there pretty fastened, pretty securely. The bottom lock, just the doorknob lock. And even with the door closed, I stood on the outside. There were no indentations, no dents in the door anywhere that I could see. And I pounded on the door pretty hard, and that was with the door unlocked completely. There was no lock secured, and that door was very sturdy. I'm not trying to take away the fears of being scared and everything, because I think that is a legitimate, scary situation to be put in. But to justify to go from being scared to a point where you're taking deadly force on someone who's standing on the other side of the door and you don't even know where you're shooting at. That's a big jump, and I think that's where Detective Pender is.
It could have been one of the kids standing there or something.
But it was her standing there. I mean, I heard her voice.
Sure, but some people don't talk. They're more quiet.
Regardless of that fact, as I was saying, to go from that, and I didn't even have any locks, and I'm pounding on it. And yes, there were our forensic technicians were inside looking, and yes, things were vibrating, but they also stated that the door didn't seem like it was going to move, and it barely budged, even with the door unlocked. So, and that's why it's important for us to go through these things to try to determine, to try to put ourselves in your position, in your mind at that time as much as possible. But to get that, help us try to understand that a little bit more, to get to that point from a fairly secure door. Because like he said, it's true, we've gone to some of these trailers where you could pretty much push the door open and
That's not your house. Your house is pretty secure. That landlord did a good job, I guess, keeping everything secure. It looked like it was everything.
Detectives have every reason to believe that Susan is the one at fault, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, all that's left is to get one final piece of the puzzle, either a verbal confession or a contradictory statement. That will determine whether this was a cold-blooded, premeditated murder, cleverly disguised under Florida's Stand Your Ground laws.
So, while we were in there going over everything, and my supervisor came in, he's actually kind of been listening a little, and something that caught my ear, like when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned the words, and I asked you to repeat it because I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. You had mentioned terminology like reasonable and prudent, in reference to how AJ was acting at your door while she was trespassing and everything. Where did that come from, that terminology? Is that
Watching TV.
Watching TV? Okay. Like documentary stuff, or like what?
Probably just crime shows and stuff.
Crime shows, okay. I have to ask you this: have you done any research on like the laws as far as like in Florida, as far as self-defense and things like that?
I looked at it today.
You looked at it today?
When I was on Facebook. Just some things that, they had it up on Facebook.
Describe that. What did you, specifically, what you were reading about and learning about?
They said self-defense, and I'm trying to think what the hell else I looked at today. So much crap. Mostly emails. But I just remember saying self-defense, and there was a bunch of lawyers and stuff like that.
So, prior to today, even the last time that you and I spoke on very early Saturday morning, you had used some of that same kind of terminology in describing the situation that occurred at your front door. Prior to today, had you ever done any kind of research like that? And before I ask, let me just say, if we were to look through everything in your phone or your home desktop computer, is there anything kind of research on your internet history that would show that you've done research on like self-defense? Or have you ever heard of the term stand your ground?
Yes.
Have you ever done any kind of research on that?
Yes, when it was mentioned on some guy shot someone at a convenience store, and they said stand your ground laws.
Was that like a Florida situation? Because I know every state has kind of different laws.
I think it was Florida. I'm hoping it was Florida.
Okay. And when was that?
God, years ago.
It was years ago?
Yeah, that was a years ago thing.
So nothing recent, it would be on like your internet browser history?
I just looked it up today.
Right, but I mean, other than, basically before this incident occurred at your door, but we're not talking like a couple years ago. We're talking about within the last few months, would there be, because your internet browser, even if you delete it or you go on private browser, if you know, we take a look at those things, because we did go through your phone, the judge signed an order for us to be able to do that. He agreed that there was reasonable enough evidence to be able to do that. So if that were the case, if we were just to look through that, would there show anything that you were looking up, stand your ground or self-defense laws in Florida on the internet?
I don't know, I look up tons of stuff.
Is it a possibility that you looked that up?
Could have been, I don't know.
Okay.
Up until now, the interrogation has shown detectives using a friendly, almost sympathetic approach. A tactic designed to lull Susan into a false sense of security, making her believe they're on her side. But Susan isn't cracking. She's holding firm, sticking to her lies. That's when the detectives decide it's time for a drastic shift. No more subtlety, no more patience. It's time to confront Susan head on for every twisted lie, every manipulation, and every horrible action she's tried to cover up.
Susan, we've talked enough that I've come to a conclusion here. Everything that I've learned, okay, and I see this on a scale here. Detective Stiff had brought up, you are Susan. Are you the Susan that has done research on Stand Your Ground and has planned for this to happen? Was planning for this to happen? There's a spectrum here. Is this the Susan over here? And then there's also could be a Susan over here that was, I have a gun in the house. I'm scared. Someone is knocking on the door. I'd like them to go away. I'm just gonna, I picked up the gun and I accidentally shot the gun. There's a Susan somewhere in the world like that. You've somehow found a spot in the middle where you're trying to explain this, but it doesn't actually make any sense. That within 2 minutes, because we know it's 2 minutes, within 2 minutes, this person came over and they were able to put down a series of statements, such as, and you said this, that they came right up to and they want to have a discussion with the way that you were treating their kids that day. You said that they were able to make that sentence. I want to talk to you about the kids. I'm banging on the door. I want to talk to you about the kids. They're making statements like that. We've interviewed other people that it was a very brief interaction, and then you shot them. Now, this wasn't a long siege. It wasn't a castle siege. It didn't last for 20, 30 minutes. It was 2 minutes. So you're trying to tell us that a reasonable person would shoot somebody for less than 2 minutes of making statements outside. That doesn't make any sense. So that I have to look on the scale here. Where is Susan? Did she plan this? Is she a cold-blooded killer that plans things? Was this an accident? Or was this something that got out of hand? Is it somewhere in the middle? That makes more sense. Not what Susan's telling me. Is it somewhere in the middle? Because I know that I talked to Detective Stiff. We kind of went through your first interview. And in that first interview, you had even said to the kids, you know what, go get your mom.
No, I didn't.
You said something along the lines as when they said, I'm going to go get my mom, you said, go get her.
Go get her. Which is fine. I'd want to talk to an adult too. I don't want to talk to a kid.
I remember saying that.
So this has happened a few times during our interview also. You have these, I don't remember. There's been a couple times that you don't remember. And these are important things to remember. And you're not able to remember them. I believe that you do remember them, and that worries me. That makes me feel like you're not telling us it because you are that you are Susan, the person that is planning. I'm just trying to figure out who's sitting in front of me here. Is it over here? I've been planning this. I picked up the gun and I was waiting for her to come over because it was very quick. It was 2 minutes. Or it was, I had the gun in my hand and I made a mistake, but now I've dug my heels in and I've made these statements so far to Detective Stiff about a mistake I made, and I feel like I can't go back. I don't want to feel like you're at a point that you can't go back. We are all human. And I'm going to tell you this, 99% of the people that sit in front of me in this room, they do not tell me the truth like the entire time. But then we get to a point where I show them that everything they're saying actually doesn't make any sense. And I always tell them, I say, look, we want to go the path of least resistance. We don't want to go down the path of embarrassment or humiliation or I made a mistake. They don't want to do that, but I show them everything. And they say, you know what? And I don't hold it against them. I don't take anything personally. If you had said something before that was not true and you felt like you had to go down that path to protect yourself or whatever it is, but it's not true, this is your opportunity to tell us. And I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to say Susan is a jerk or a liar or anything like that. I'm going to say what Susan's saying now makes a little bit more sense for me and Detective Stith. And this is that opportunity. If something is different than what you originally told us, I might be able to make sense out of it because I know your history now. I know that you were a victim of some kind of sexual trauma. I know that there was things that happened to you when you were in school. I know that you have gone through hard experiences, and maybe that influenced why you said the things you said before. But I can tell you right now, what we've learned, what we've discussed all leading up to this, it doesn't make any sense. So this is your opportunity to actually tell us that something that does make sense. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to get mad. But whenever AJ was coming over that evening, what happened? What happened? Bring me to that moment when you had the gun in your hand. What were you thinking?
All I wanted her was to go away. I just, I felt she was going to come through that door and kill me. I'm sorry, that's what I felt. I just felt she was going to come through the door and kill me.
Okay.
It was a tremendous fear.
Did you feel bad for what happened?
Oh, Christ, yes.
Do you? Because the first time that we talked, there was a point where I informed you that AJ had passed away. And I wasn't sure if you'd been aware of that or not. I know they transported her in an ambulance from there.
No, I saw them doing CPR.
Yeah. So when I informed you of that, you showed emotion. You showed what appeared to me to be at least somewhat of a remorse for what had happened. So do you feel bad for what had happened?
Absolutely.
Do you feel bad for the children?
Christ, yes.
So, and I think, Detective Pender we're trying to give you the opportunity to try to explain some of these discrepancies in the story, the things that don't really add up or make sense. And you maintaining that you were in fear for your life.
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense. And I feel like at this point, today you really haven't, and I'm not judging you, everybody processes things differently, so I understand that. But you haven't really seemed remorseful for today, at least, for what had happened.
Oh, God. It just makes me sick. I don't know I can't take it back. It's transpired, it's in the past, I don't know what the hell to do. It's just probably me shutting down again.
Okay. Do you think that's a trauma response or something? I know you said you had gone through a lot of flat affect and things like that in the past.
I mean, it's a horrible situation. And inner conflict is horrible because, it goes against my faith. I broke a commandment. I feel horrible for what I did.
Okay. So, looking back on it now, and do you think that she was actually going to get through that door? I mean, be honest with us, because
I thought she was coming through the door. Yeah. As God is my witness, I thought she was going to come through that door. I'm sorry, it's just what I felt.
So, I mean, at this point, like, we've talked to you, we've talked to a lot of people and gone through the evidence. We've discussed all of this with the state attorney's office as well. After talking to you for several hours on Saturday morning and then today, I feel that there was a level of fear, but from everything I've seen, it doesn't rise to the level for you to justify shooting through a closed door and with a firearm. Okay, and I think you know that wasn't reasonable what you did.
I felt so terrified. I just felt so terrified. Here she comes again. Again she's screaming, she's yelling, she's acting unreasonable. And
let me ask you this. You said that you went on Facebook today. I can only imagine that at some point you may have seen some of the news dealing with this case and this story.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of stuff did you see?
I threw a tablet at the child. I said all kinds of things that I never said.
You know what I saw? I saw 4 kids that no longer have a mother. And I'm not taking away how you were treated, but those are children nonetheless, right? And now they don't have a mother to go home to. And I think you know what you did was wrong. I think you know that there were already deputies on the way.
But there was times I called and the deputies never showed up.
I understand. It's been
So,
2 minutes. So you.
To me, it wasn't 2 minutes. To me, it was much longer. In my mind, it felt like.
But there's only one reality where time
Okay.
exists, and I understand perception of time can be different for different people. But in the reality of things, you had just disconnected. Within 2 minutes, a shot was fired through that door.
From this point on, Susan has nowhere to run. The truth is out, and the consequences of her actions are closing in fast. She's been caught, and the officers are about to make sure she understands exactly how deep of a hole she's in.
There's no way to justify that. In my mind, I don't think in Detective Penner's mind,
I can't make sense
and
of
clearly in other people's minds that we've discussed this case with the state attorney, our legal counsel, and things like that. So, I mean, at this point, we've discussed it with the state, and they are on the same terms as far as charging you with manslaughter. Okay.
Okay. I don't know what to say. I was in fear for my life. I mean, honest to God, I just feared that she was going to come through that door. I'm sorry, that's how I felt. I can't change the way I felt. I mean, it was sheer terror on my part. I mean, honest to God, I was shaking.
So, one of the things I want to ask, because at the point where I did let you know and I informed you, what had ultimately happened to AJ after that shooting, that she had passed away, and obviously she has 4 kids, and I was observing the interviews that were conducted with them and the emotions that they were going through. And you shared some of those same emotions at points through the conversations that we had. And I just want to, obviously I can't let you talk to them or give a message to them and face to face. But I would like, it's up to you, if you would like to write them a letter or something to kind of, whatever's on your mind or in your heart.
You don't have to. We're just going to leave a notepad and.
All right, Susan. All right, we're going to have you go with this deputy here.
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
No what?
I can't.
What's wrong? What's going on?
I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we're to that point where that's what's going to happen. Obviously, this isn't a conviction. This is you being charged, and then you're going to have your day in court to present your side of the story. Okay, so you're going to go with this deputy.
No, I'm not.
You're going to be booked in.
No, I'm not.
And fingerprinted.
No.
They're going to take your pictures, and then you will have an arraignment in the morning.
I'm not going to. Sorry.
There's a phone down there. You'll be able to call whoever you need to call, right there in booking.
I'm not going.
But Susan, we are going. There's no change in that now. You're under arrest. In fact, we can probably go ahead and put handcuffs on her. Let's get you handcuffed.
No.
Stand up.
No, don't touch me.
Susan.
Stand up, Susan.
No.
Listen.
Sorry, I can't.
It can
do
go
this.
one
I
of 2
can't
ways.
do
It can
this.
go an easy way or it can go a really hard way.
I'm sorry.
We don't want it to go the hard way.
I'm so sorry. I
Susan,
can't
put
do
yourself in our position. There's no choice in this. You're going over there.
I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Susan, you understand that from the point of the story that you've given us, that by refusing and resisting, that it's making you look bad, okay? And I understand your reluctance to want to go.
I just can't do this.
Okay, well, they have medical staff over there
As soon
that
as
can
you get over
assist
there, there's a
you.
nurse right in the front.
They can, you give them the
can't
prescription
do this.
medications that you're taking, all that. They will assist you in making sure that you get the care you need.
No,
But
I can't
we're
do
going
this.
over there, okay? You're
I
gonna go
can't.
over there and,
I just can't do this.
okay, well,
Come on, Susan, stand up.
if
we
we
don't have
have,
time to
Seriously,
debate.
I can't do this.
okay, but do you understand that you're under arrest and you're
I
gonna be
understand
taken to
under
the jail
arrest,
one way or another, okay?
I don't care.
Susan,
I just can't do this. I'm sorry.
I don't. What you're saying and doing right now is not reasonable.
I know it's not
There's
reasonable,
been people.
but I just can't do this.
So when you
So-
say it's not reasonable, that doesn't make sense to me.
I understand. I just can't do this. I'm sorry.
Okay. And this is why we're in this position here, Susan, is because the decisions you make are not reasonable. You make just like what
I'm
we're
sorry.
experiencing right now.
I'm sorry. I just can't do this. I can't do this.
I've had people sit in this chair that have done things and they get up, they walk out on their own accord. They've done some really bad things. Okay, you're not the only person, but I need you to.
I just feel horrible. I can't do this.
Okay, well, we're going to go to the jail. There's no changing this. There's no stopping it.
I don't care. Kill me.
We're not going to kill anybody. We're going to take you to the jail. We'd rather you walk on your own. We'd rather you just walk down there. It'd be so much better for everybody if we could just walk down
Can
there.
you just stand up for me?
No.
So what do you plan on sitting here the rest of the night?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to die of a heart attack.
Well, like I said, they have medical staff over there. We want to be able to get you over
The
there.
quicker we get you over there, the quicker someone over there that's in medical can see you.
No, I just can't do
Susan, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna put you in handcuffs, and if we have to forcefully bring you out there, that's what we have to do, because
that.
we're obligated
I really don't want
to
to.
take you to the jail now, okay?
Thank you for standing up.
Sorry, I just.
I understand that.
So put your hands behind your back for me.
Thank you, Susan.
I didn't do this on purpose. This wasn't a purposeful act. I did not premeditate it. I didn't do anything like that. This is ridiculous.
As of November 26, 2025, Susan Lawrence has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. A judge handed down the sentence after a jury found her guilty of manslaughter.
So, what I'm going to do in this case is adjudicated guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, and order to serve 25 years in the Department of Corrections. With credit for 538 days. It's $100 cost of prosecution, $100 fine, court cost. Good luck to you, ma'am. You have.
However, black communities and Achji K's family have been demanding a harsher charge, arguing that this was premeditated and should have been prosecuted as second-degree murder. For the family, a manslaughter conviction simply isn't enough. They wanted justice in the form of a murder 2 charge.
The family would have wanted something a little more harsh in the form of a murder 2 charge. We are disappointed by this decision. All the evidence pointed to a murder 2.
Unfortunately, state attorneys claimed there wasn't enough evidence to pursue that charge, leaving many feeling that true justice was never fully served. Even so, the community refuses to stay silent. They remain deeply committed to honoring Achji K's memory, while also demanding changes to Florida's Stand Your Ground laws. Attorneys involved in the case have condemned the law as outdated and dangerous, calling for its eradication. Yet, speculation still lingers. Did Susan exploit this legal loophole to justify murder? Given her history of lies, racist remarks, and relentless harassment, combined with her complete lack of remorse, it seems highly likely. But despite overwhelming evidence, Susan has never admitted to it. She continues to plead not guilty to this day. What do you think? Did Susan plan this murder after researching the law? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments.